Hey guys, this is PowerTech 1999, and it's the last week and a half of summer, and I figured I wanted to get one last project in and one more video in before school starts. So today I'm going to show you how to make a knife out of a comforter chair, and yeah, it should be pretty cool. We're going to be using just about all the materials of the chair to make the knife, so let's get into this. Now before I get started, just realize that not all comforters are going to be the same. They should have similar characteristics, like how they work. Now the metal that I'm after is right here, and I was watching TV one day and I kind of noticed that this right here looked like a nice knife with a handle, and so that's pretty much what I did. This used to connect to the leg rest with this piece right here, and by the way, this piece right here might be a decent like whittling knife, but I'm more worried about this piece right here, and so this is what it'll look like once you cut it off. It's that right there. I used a hacksaw and cut the top portion off. Figured I couldn't really use this for anything. And you will notice that there are holes right here, but that should not be too big of a problem. But you will notice there are two holes down here, and they are pretty big, but I should be able to use them as pinholes. So that'll be a lot easier than having to drill through the metal. The holes are already there. And yeah, in my next clip, I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing to prep this blade. So this is probably more for cosmetics, but I'm going to be sanding off all the paint except for the handle. I'm not too worried about how the handle looks because we're going to be covering it up with a wooden handle, which will actually be the wooden here because I want to use all the materials. But anyways, we're just going to take a small piece of sandpaper, and you can see the paint comes off fairly easy. But you're just going to do this for 5 or 10 minutes, and I've already done that on one side and it looks fairly clean. I might polish it up a little bit more, but it doesn't need to be perfect yet. We're just going to sand off all the paint so we know what we're looking at. I've sanded off a majority of the paint, just enough to where I can put a Sharpie on there and be able to see it. And as you can see, I made the outline of my knife. I didn't really look anything up, but just from seeing chopping knives in the past, that should work. That should look nice. So yeah, I'm going to get a hacksaw, cut all that off. And by the way, I'm not using any power tools in this, so it really doesn't take much to be able to make these. You don't need a belt grinder, although it sure would help. But you don't need hardly any tools to be able to make one of these. After a little while, I finally got all the metal off, and I didn't realize how thick this was, but it was kind of a pain to do, but it got done with a hacksaw, and you can kind of tell. So I'm just gonna clean up the edges, and you'll notice that it's more of a rounded tip, and that's because it's a lot easier to form it with a file than it is with a hacksaw, and it's just a lot easier with a file. So I know I haven't been doing a lot of stuff on camera, like the hacksawing and all that, and taking the stuff off the chair. So I'm just going to clean off the edges on camera so you can see. I'll speed it up though, so if you don't want to see it, just fast forward. Alright, I'm happy with that. I mean, took a while, drew some blood. Who knew a knife without a blade could be so dangerous, and I nicked my finger with the file. But now we're gonna try to put an edge on this. I'm saying edge because we're not gonna put a blade on yet because we still need to fire harden it. Or just not fire harden it, but we still need to harden it. Alright, what I've done here is just mark the edge with a Sharpie, and it took me 2 tries to do this, so I've been working on it for a while, because I've had to do something with my car with the brake lights, and it wasn't very fun. But yeah, basically I'm just gonna grind, as you can see here, just grind until there's no Sharpie left. And I'm in pretty low battery right now, so I'm just gonna do this till the battery runs out and come back to you when it's the edge is done. Alright, I finished the blade on this, and me and my buddy got some coal from the railroad tracks. So that's what I'm going to take advantage of that, and we're going to harden this. So basically we're going to stick it in the forge that I have set up right here. I was trying to make a railroad spike knife. Turned out more like a butter knife, but oh well, it was my first time. So basically we're just going to heat this up until magnet doesn't stick to it, and then we'll quench it. And I'm going to try my best. I've seen people on YouTube melt the tip of their knife off. Alright, sorry about that. My battery shut off. But anyways, like I was saying, I was going to try not to burn the tip off because I've seen some guys do that. Pretty sure the blade's ready. Not sticking. Alright, well that's interesting. I used a combination of water and oil, so that's probably why it's freaking out right now. Alright, that's kind of cool. I'll be back with you once that's all cooled off. Alright, I got the knife in the toaster oven, and it's at 400 degrees. It's been going for about an hour and a half now. And I realized whenever I was hardening it that some parts were hotter than the others, or hotter than others. But that should be fine. And I noticed that as you can see, if you want to scroll back, it's a lot oranger, a lot hotter in the middle of the blade, and I actually think that'll work to my advantage because that's going to be taking most of the beating whenever I'm chopping wood instead of closer to the handle. So yeah, that's what it looks like. You can hardly see it, but I'll get back to you once this is done, which should be in about 30 minutes, and we'll start working on the handle. Alright, so here's the finished, well not the finished, but the heat treated and tempered knife. Now we're going to work on the handle. And what I have here is some pieces of wood off the chair again. I'm trying to use nothing but the chair. And yeah, so I've marked out where I need to drill holes. Like that, and to do that I just lined up the blade like that, took this one off, marked it. Now I'm going to drill holes in there, and then we'll get to gluing them on here and putting on the pins. I'm going to drill some pilot holes first because right there the bit already started walking on me. So I'll drill these first. Alright, well that didn't work out too well, but I'm gonna check and see if the pins will still fit in there. And these are a lot bigger than the handle's actually gonna be, so it's alright if there's a little bit of wiggle room. Well, after a little bit of hammering and switching these pieces of wood around, I got them to fit, and the pins are actually just bolts. But I'm gonna cut the bolts off. You can see there, kinda. So I'm gonna epoxy these to the blade, but before that I'm gonna cut notches in the knife with a file, at least by the handle, and then I'll clamp it, leave it overnight, and we'll come back and shape the handle. Alright, the epoxy didn't take that long to dry. I probably should let it sit overnight, but I don't really see the point of that. I mean, it might make it a little stronger, but I really want to work on it now, so let's hope I don't break it and then throw a temper tantrum. So basically I'm just going to be filing it down until it fits in my hand, and then I'm going to, here are the pins, I'm going to saw off the head of these, and then I'll epoxy these in there, and yeah. This is plywood. That's mainly what furniture is made out of, or at least those lazy boy looking things, probably because it's cheaper and is a little bit more durable, but it probably won't look as nice, so if it does look nice, great. If not, I'll just spray paint it black, and then I'm going to polish up the blade. So yeah, I'll just file this and I'll come back when I'm done. Alright, I finished up the handle. This is what it looks like. Nice and smooth. It feels pretty well, and this hand is all calloused up from working with files without work gloves, and just working with all this nice stuff and with the forge yesterday. So it's not the most comfortable, but it'll work, and it keeps the knife in your hand. And then I also cleaned up the blade with some sandpaper and got a fairly decent edge on it. As you guys probably know, axes are not going to be as sharp as knives because the angles are going to be a lot wider for chopping knives. And the reason for that is whenever you're chopping, you're really beating up the blade, and real thin edges will cut a lot farther, but they'll also they could break off, and they definitely won't last as long, whereas if you have a nice thick edge, it might not go as far, but it'll last for a lot longer. Now all I have to do is put these pins in here, which are again actually the screws, and again I'm going to cut off the top here, but before I do that I'm just going to do a couple chop tests. Alright, we're going to be gluing in the pins now. Where'd the other one go? Alright, here it is. So these are the pins, and I just sawed off this top piece right here. And it was a real pain to clamp it down, but a tip that I have for you guys is to clamp it down on something soft like a 2x4, so it'll dig in, or the threads will dig into there and it won't move as easily. So I have some epoxy stirred up real quick, and I'm just going to brush it on these. And again, I'm using these bolts or screws mainly because they have these threads, and that'll grip real tight it'll bind to the wood and to the metal. So I'm just gonna get a brush, paint it all over it, and we'll stick it in the knife. Alright, here's the first one. Just pop it on in there, and I also have a rag handy because there's epoxy all over that, and we don't want that to rag go. I'm just losing everything today. I'm going to get the other one in there real quick. Get it all over. There we go. Pop it on in there. And I'm going to find that rag, and here it is. Wipe off the epoxy. Make sure the pins are where I want them to be, because that's where they're going to be sitting. And this will be dried in about half an hour, and yeah, I'll be back with you guys once that's done. I did quite a lot of stuff after I put the pins in, but basically these are what they look like. I tried to reshape the handle, and since it's plywood, it chips off pretty easily. So I was working on the base, and it chipped off on one side, so I tried to make it symmetrical, file it off on both sides. The handle's kind of comfortable, but that's pretty much all I have to work on left. The blade I filed and sanded down, and then I buffed it with a buffing wheel that I made in another video, and it seemed to work alright. It's not gonna be a mirror finish or anything, because there's some deeper scratches in there, but you can see it'll kind of reflect sunlight. I'm in shade right now, but let me see if I can get it in the sunlight. No, not really. But it's fairly shiny for a chair leg off of a Lazy Boy, so I'm pretty happy with the blade. Now I'm just gonna sand the handle down, try to make it a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more better looking, try to get rid of this watermark, and then I'm also gonna try to get the rust off of these pins, because I brushed vinegar on the blade hoping that the acid would eat away at any rust particles or dirt, hoping that it'd make it shinier, but that didn't work too well, and I kind of got watermarks on the handle. So you guys don't really need to see me sanding. I'm going to try to sand the rust out of these pins, but we'll see how that goes. So I'll come back to you guys with the finished product, nice and sharp and looking pretty. So yeah, I'll see you then. Alright, here's the finished knife. The handle, I'd say, looks alright for being plywood that came out of a chair. I didn't do too much extra shaping. I basically just sanded it. This is what the pins look like after the sanding I tried to do. Didn't work out too well, but oh well, it's just cosmetics. The blade isn't the sharpest, but it's also not very dull. And remember, this is a chopping knife, so it can't be too sharp or else the blade won't last. But it'll still pass the paper test. Those are fairly clean cuts. There's no major nicks in there. There's one, but that's about it. So now, of course, this is a chopping knife, so we're gonna go do some chopping tests. Alright, well that's after about 15 minutes of chopping. Say we got about halfway through it. There you can see it a little better. I did some chopping over here, just standing it up because that was a little easier. I wasn't bending down as much. But now we're gonna do a test that I don't see a lot of YouTubers do, and we're gonna do the paper test after we've been chopping for a while. So I'm not expecting it to be great, but I think it should at least still slice. So yeah, that's fine. So the heat treatment worked pretty well, and yeah, still a alright chopper, but this is probably by far the best knife that I've made before. It isn't the best quality metal because, again, it's made out of a Lazy Boy. But, you know, this just goes to show, with no power tools but a drill, with the exception of a drill, that's because just about everyone has a drill. Not everyone has a belt grinder or anything like that. But yeah, you can make a knife out of just about anything. So, I'm pretty proud of it. I think it looks alright for what it's made out of. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.